want to start off with, we usually have in our climate conversations and all of our events, we start off with a native land acknowledgement, just recognizing the property that we're on and who the indigenous groups were that called this place home before we came in and turned it into our homes and shopping centers and so on. So this particular meeting is hosted on the traditional lands of the Osage, the Sioux, and the Kaw. And I just want to express honor for our Indigenous elders and their teachings. And I'm going to turn that over to Kelly for a minute and see if she has anything she'd like to add about the land that we're on and the land that you're on. And Kelly, I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you. And then you'll show up real big on everybody's screen. So anything to do with land acknowledgement, and then we'll go and do a little more deeper introduction of yourself.
Okay. It's interesting because with my forest therapy guiding, that one of the most important things is to acknowledge the land that we're on. And I'm on a very special piece of land that, you know, the Kaw and the Osage and the Sioux all were here, probably even part of my heritage, which is Iowa. And but the last Indians that were here were the Black Bob clan of the Shawnee Indians, and they were the chief actually lived here. And so the reservation went from the state line to Lawrence. But because of where the rivers converge here, we have Coffee Creek and Wolf Creek that come together to form the beginning of Blue River. And it's the biggest watershed in the entire area. It goes all the way to the Missouri River. And this is the headwaters here.
Easy, no chasing birds.
Oh. Okay, she's muted now.
And so I've been really blessed to be here for 26 years and felt the presence of this place when I first came here, and felt that I was, and been told that I'm here to protect it and bring back joy to the land, because during the Civil War there was a lot of fighting, and the Shawnees, the Black Bob clan, they were asked to fight in the war, and most of the men were killed. So they ended up with women and children, and then they were forced to sell it. And the people that bought it, a lot of illegally selling happened, but the people that bought it were the people I bought it from. So it has been pretty untouched native land for a long time, and they have a lot of wild edibles here. We're really blessed to see, and where their encampments were, we have bluebells, Virginia bluebells and Virginia waterleaf, and things that I feel like they planted for, as they do, for the next seven generations, and that hundreds of years later that I'm blessed to like share this with people and walk people around and teach them about the plants. And I have so many edibles here that I know that they brought here, you know, that they planted for me. So it's kind of a relationship that I have with the land, which I think is really important, to have relationship with a piece of land that you caretake, even if it's a little garden or whatever it is you do. That relationship with the land is part of who we are and where we came from, and why the people survived for as long as they did, is because of their relationship with the land and their understanding of the land. So yeah, this is a really important part of what I do, is the history of this land and the gifts that they've given us to share and learn about, to help take care of ourselves.
Wow. It's lovely to hear, Kelly. And I just have to say, I just choke up, and I'll probably feel like this through this whole conversation. It's just a heartfelt connection. And so I'd like to start off with a little more introduction with who you are. Like, who is this glorious woman with that amazing painting above her head? And talk a bit about Kelly Gallery and the Blue River Forest experience and your forest school and like everything. So just introduce yourself.
Okay. So I've been known as a professional photographer here in Overland Park for actually I've been a professional photographer for 30 years. And my focus has been on my land and creating this oasis in this beautiful space to connect people to nature in whatever way I could. And a lot of what I do is with families and children and photographing them. And I designed the gardens and on these 10 acres to have scenes in the background for my photography. And that was my initial drive to do what I love. And my mom always said, do what you love. So I was always an artist. And so I decided to design beautiful portraits, canvas portraits of scenes with children in them and families, and help them see how beautiful their children are and connect with them, and cry when I do these videos with music, and really help touch their hearts. And also to teach children even about the nature when I'm photographing them, and helping them feel comfortable about the bees and the things that are happening around them, and find the magic in it all. And so my background is art, and this is like one of my paintings, as my passions are like the Native American traditions. And as I have two sides of Native Americans. On my mom's side, her mom was Iowa, which is, she was born on the White Cloud Reservation when it was actually in southern Nebraska, but it's now just in Kansas, White Cloud, Kansas. And then on my grandfather's side is Seneca. And she was married to a man that lived on the Pine Ridge Reservation. Wasn't told what he was, but he lived into his 90s on Pine Ridge. So I have a lot of that in my background, but also my grandfather's side, I'm a direct descendant from William Bradford, who was the leader of the Plymouth colony. So I have 4 direct ancestors on the Mayflower. So I consider myself a kind of a mediator between the two worlds, and I'm here, I believe, to help the two worlds understand each other and come together and appreciate what each other has to offer. So I think that's a little bit of my background. And my sister, I have one sister who I like to dedicate things to her because she's Down syndrome. She's 60 years old, and probably my greatest teacher in my life. And she's reaching the end of her life, but, oh God, sorry. I'm so sorry. She probably helped motivate me more than anyone in my life to make sure that my life had purpose and that I used my gifts to help the world. And so I'm so sorry.
That's amazing. Oh, never apologize for that, Kelly.
Anyway, so I just wanted to acknowledge that. And that's probably when people talk about like how I've been so driven and done so much, and it's because of her. So I think, and then I'm a certified forest therapy guide. I'm making a mess.
You look gorgeous.
So I take people on walks to connect them with the forest in a different way, where it's not just they're learning about the forest, which they can, but I help them just kind of remove their minds from it all, you know, and try not to tell them about what the plants are called and stuff like that, but to sync them in with their senses and help them to heal. So that's another thing that I do. And then I have a permaculture farm here that we plant fruit trees and berries, and I have a greenhouse. And you know, my dream was always to like become more sustainable. I have solar panels coming, and I'm trying to do what I can to make my footprint on this earth smaller, although I have a pretty big house here that I have a lot of, you know, I have, I help families that need places to live sometimes, and my children and who are grown, and help teach at our forest school. So we have it's called Blue River Forest Experience, and it's pretty much a dream that I've had for a long time. Actually, about 18 years ago, I took my sons to a camp in Oregon that was called Coyote Trails. It was based on an Apache elder's teachings, and I read this book called Grandfather by Tom Brown Jr., and it pretty much changed my life. And it was about this man who, when he was from 7 years old to 17 years old, spent time with an Apache elder in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, which, interestingly enough, I lived there when I was in second, third, and fourth grade with my family, and by the Pine Barrens, and when Grandfather was there. So I think that somehow he tapped into me or something and drove me to a lot of what I do. And my parents would take me to Sylvan Mind Control, so I learned about meditation at a very young age, and how to go to my happy place, and all those things that helped, develop my passions. But also, my parents were in the peace movement, so I've been to Washington, D.C. During protests, and had to put my face in picnic blankets because tear gas would be coming over from areas where the police were trying to control the protesters. And so I've, at a very young age, been around that kind of thing. And then my parents decided to come to Missouri and live on the land. So my dad actually worked for Mobil Oil Company and in New Jersey. And so my whole life, I have been in like two different worlds my whole life. And came back here, and one of my favorite books that my mom had was Billy Joe Tatum's Wild Food Cookbook. And I thought it was like the most amazing thing that I could go outside and there was like free food everywhere. So that's where my passion started. And then as I got older, like, I succeeded with my photography business, and I decided, I want to learn about plants again. So I was able to apprentice with Coy Miller, who is an amazing medicine woman, plant expert in Lawrence, and apprenticed with her for a year to learn more about what I do. And I recorded her and photographed her, and did my things that I do and for her to have. And then Blue River Forest Experience has come out of all of this, which is we are Blue River Forest School, which is for children, but we call it Experience because we also work with adults with my forest therapy, and just we connect people in all ways. We have bonfires, and we have stargazing nights, and we have luminary walks, and we have a lot of different things that we do besides our forest school. Probably one of our most important things is our camps that we do that sink kids in for a whole week. We have 4 weeks that we do because it's pretty intense holding space for 20 children, but it's so much fun. We had our first camp this week, and then we have another one next week, and they're all booked except for the 4th one, July 20th, that we have a few openings left. But in these camps, my sons trained in Oregon with these nature camps based on this Apache elder. And basically what he taught were how to sink in with your senses. And a lot of what he taught actually is a basis for the Forest Therapy Guide program that was put together. It's based on this Apache elder also. And how we teach the children how also to live very simply. And one of the reasons I took my children there was because I wanted them to get out of Johnson County and realize what's really important, and to be around people that loved nature and lived very simply, to show them that this wasn't everything, that they may not be able to have a house like I have, and I didn't want them to be upset because they couldn't have that. And I wanted them to be happy, to be very simple, just being in a tent in the woods for a whole week. And how do you do that? And how do you eat? And how do you wash? And how do you enjoy yourself? And how do you play? And how do you have fun without your electronics, which has only come around in the last 100 years, and they think that's all there is. And unfortunately, if that ever goes down, they're going to be in trouble. And so it just, because of our week there in Oregon, it changed our lives. I cried for 3 days because I didn't want to come back. And it was about being in community with 30 people and really getting to know them and sinking in. And they take the adults to do something. They take the different ages of children to do their projects. And then we eat together, eat all this organic, amazing food, very healthy detox for my children that was difficult to do in this traditional society, where you have the support of everyone else with your food and everything, and eventually kids get hungry enough that they'll eat anything. But when we first got there, they looked up at me and they're with these eyes of like, what are we going to eat? And there's no chicken nuggets here. And so but by the second, third, fourth day, they were taking seconds. And it was like, it changed our lives. It was like a huge nature detox. And it made me want to bring it here. And I knew I couldn't move to Oregon, but I wanted to, but I needed to stay here. And I started making trails on my land and making fire pits and made a labyrinth in the forest. And I wanted to bring people from Oregon, the teachers here. So they came out and they did weekend camps for several years and basically trained us. My sons would spend 6 to 8 weeks in Oregon training to be teachers, and from like 15 years old. But from 6 and 10, they went there every year because it was so powerful. I knew that we had to be there, and I knew that they needed this consistent connection. And even though it was just 1 week a year, it literally changed my sons' lives. They're very healthy now. They realized getting through high school that there was another world out there, and that there were very loving, kind people. And a lot of the high school things here were a lot of cruelty. And so it would have been very depressing if I hadn't done that for them. And I realized the importance of that connection that they had, and how all these children need it. All children need it so badly right now. And so I started a meetup, was called Family, Nature, and Adventure or something. And because I wanted to start gathering people and letting them know that we could do some things like this for them. And finally, my son last year put together a nonprofit. So that was a big experience for him, putting the nonprofit together. But we finally got it done. And it's kind of like a long time coming for our nature programs to actually be a thing. And we team up for a couple of the weeks with a teacher here in Blue Valley School District. And we have camps called STEM versus Wild, which I really love because it brings in these kids that are literally on technology all the time. Like, they love it. And we teach them about how the science and the math and everything is connected to nature. Like, it's all connected. So we get these kids out here, and then they start seeing another world that they never would have chosen. They wouldn't have chosen just a nature camp. They like the STEM part, like that lures them out. And we do things with drones, and we do things with, sometimes wilderness cams and things like that. They kind of like get them understanding that there's a really cool thing you can do with both. But mostly what we do is we sink them in, and we have them do sit spots, which is where we have them sit for 15 minutes quietly in the forest, and they get to just be for 15 minutes. And it's really interesting. I always feel a little nervous about it because they're a little wild and they're a little hyped up on all their worlds and their busyness. But it's one of their favorite things. And it's so amazing. I've had the teacher say he's never seen this work in school in classrooms or anything. They couldn't get it to work, but to see them, how silently they became, even in the circle that we always have. We do everything in circles so that the children are allowed to speak. Each one is heard, and they get to share their feelings and their experiences. So our camp is so much deeper than, ATVs and, swimming pools and all those things. We really sink them in. And it's so beautiful to see the transformation in these kids, and to see at the beginning of the week how they're afraid and they're kind of nervous, and they look at the forest and they think there's poison ivy everywhere. And I've pretty much, my vinegar and salt has pretty much cleared most of it out. But I let them know what it looks like, so that they can walk around it, so they don't have to be afraid anymore. And and they start interacting with the bugs and things, and they start realizing, oh, they just, if there's a tick, they take it off. They feel it. It's like, it's awareness. When you're aware of things, then you're not afraid of it anymore. It's just like with my sister, where kids would be mean, and they didn't understand her. They were afraid of her because they didn't know why she was different. So my mom, I always wanted to kick the kids' butts, but my mom taught me peace, and she taught me that I need to help them understand why she's different and that she needs their help. And they would miraculously turn around. So my whole life has been all about helping people to connect with peace and understanding and awareness. And the nature literally healed my youngest son, who had what's called pain amplification syndrome, which is an epidemic in children now that people don't know about because of early sports and constant, they say, suck it up. If you get hurt, keep going. Well, what happens is your nerves start to go haywire, because if they think that we are supposed to stop something if it hurts. That's why we have nerves that protect us. And when you stop listening to them, they go haywire into a constant pain. And he had this from 10 years old till 15, when we finally found a place in Children's Mercy Hospital who taught meditation. Drugs didn't work with these kids. Meditation, yoga, desensitization, counseling, and massage therapy, occupational therapy, everything but drugs. It was amazing. And I also put a program together for him for inflammation for his food. So he went to Oregon during the summer when he was 15, after starting to make him do yoga and stuff that he would not normally do. And he healed literally out in Oregon for 6 to 8 weeks. And he will tell you it's what healed him. And so our connection with nature has been very powerful, and very powerful stories that we have to share with people. And how do you do that? How do you help people heal in the nature? It's not just going outside every once in a while, which is good, but there's ways to do it. And this Apache elder knew what it took. And these kids were 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening. They would send a sit spot, and they would give gratitude, and they would observe, and they would start to become part of the natural environment. So when you sit in a sit spot every day in the same place, the birds start to become used to you. The animals start to become used to you. The deer on my land, the fawns would stand up and see it was me and lay back down. We teach them how to walk in a certain way, how to listen, how to see things differently, using wide angle vision and all these things that grandfather taught. And little foxes would come out, and they'd scratch their ears and sit behind me. And it was all because of how we walked and how we listened and how we experienced the nature that helped us connect to it and become part of it. So the nature wasn't afraid of us either. And so it's just a passion that I have, and I've seen what impact it has had on my family. And I see it on children every time we have these camps, and every time we have these little programs for them, and it makes my heart happy. You know, it's just like, I love that. So I think I talk too much, but is there anything else I need?
That's why we have 2 hours here, Kelly. Um, but I just want to say that when we have our climate conversations, often or usually we'll ask for donations to the Resilient Activist because we're a nonprofit. But today, I want to invite you, instead of making a donation to us, to instead make it to the Blue River Forest Experience. And you can do that through PayPal, right? Is that the best way, Kelly? To the Blue River Forest Experience at gmail.com. And you can just send a payment there, or you could mail a check, or you could contact Kelly and, you know, and make other arrangements. But they're just a brand new nonprofit, and it's really exciting. So they have a ways to go as far as all that back office stuff is like overwhelming, but which I know clearly. So
yeah.
Amazing story, Kelly. One of the things that I know a couple of people who are on the call today really wanted to know about is more about your Native heritage, about your calling to spend time at Standing Rock. And I think with that, if you're comfortable giving a little background of why Standing Rock, what happened, what was the point, what was the background of the pipeline or the communities that live there. So again, I know this is not going to be a 2-minute conversation, but I know that because it's such a broad topic, and I know from your heart it is too. So
yeah.
Take it.
Okay, so one of my forest school moms said she was going to take some canoes and kayaks to a reservation up north that were trying to protect their water from pipeline coming through. And I was like, what's that? You know, I was kind of curious about it. And it was at the very beginning when they had the Sacred Stone Camp, and they didn't have the main Ocheti Sakoan camp that was the big camp that ended up having 25,000 people, and one of the largest cities in North Dakota. But when I went, it was very much at the beginning. And she said, hey, yeah, you want to go with me? And I was just like, when are you leaving? And she's like, 4:00 in the morning. I'm like, I just got back from Oregon. I'm like, I don't think I can do this. Like, this is a lot. I'm like, I don't know I can do this. And I'm like sitting, I have a buffalo skin, and I was sitting on my buffalo skin, and I was like crying because I was like, oh man, this is like, I feel it's like calling me, like I'm supposed to be there, but man, I don't know how I can do this, and it's just too much. And
Kelly,
I was like,
Kelly, wait.
Lane.
Can you explain what's the point of sitting on the buffalo skin?
Well,
and the point of the white buffalo, and what, you know, just if I could just stop you for a minute, like, what is that about?
Well, I have a buffalo skin just because I love buffaloes.
Okay.
But the white buffalo, like in behind me, is it's a tradition and something that happened with them with the white buffalo calf pipe woman. So you can see it has a little pipe, the peace pipe there. She was a spirit that came to teach the Sioux that about the pipe and how to share it with people to create peace and to bring peace, and the smokes to go up and create peace. So that's the basic general idea of the white buffalo, that it was going to come back. And when it came back, which there are quite a few white buffaloes right now, that there was going to be a shift, and there were going to be things that would happen to the world. And all these things have been, have the prophecy of even the black snake, which is with the pipeline up in North Dakota. The black snake is considered the pipelines, and black snakes go all over the earth, and they're creating problems, and they're breaking, and they're making the earth really sick. And so with Standing Rock, that was part of the tradition, is they understood the black snake was something that they had to stand up and stop. And so over 700 tribes came together for the first time in 200 years. And usually, you know, a lot of the way the government works is that divide and conquer. So they would create borders with the Native Americans, and there weren't borders ever. And when borders are created, they know that you get strife between the sides. And, you know, just like the Dene Reservation down in Arizona, the coal mining, they created between the Hopi and the Dene, the Navajo people, they made a border, and now they argue about things, and it was never that way before. You know, sometimes tribes might have disagreements, but most of that happened when the Europeans came across and started creating fear and division and just all kinds of chaos and sickness and that kind of thing. But so the things that I learned in Standing Rock, I you know, finally I went actually the next day with a friend, 2 kayaks on my roof of my car and in a thunderstorm. And we ended up leaving at like 11 at night and getting there when they were getting on the river at 11 o'clock the next morning. So we drove 12 hours and then jumped on the kayak and went for all day long. It took us like 7 hours to get from the Cannonball River down to the Missouri River, which is a lake, Oahe, I think it's called. And it is a giant lake that was made in the 60s from a dam that hardly produces any electricity, and the Native Americans don't get any of it. They produced this dam coincidentally where the Standing Rock Reservation community lived, and they were a sustainable, very thriving community because they had their wildlife, they had their gardens, they were on a riverbed, they were on next to the river. It was very rich land. And when they put the dam in, I got to speak to grandfathers that were crying, and the grandchildren that saw their grandparents crying. It was not very long ago. I thought this stuff happened 200 years ago. It happened. It's still happening. That's what's kind of crazy about the whole thing, that I really learned about is how it's still happening. And these lands are wanted by the government for their coal or their gold. Or the reason they took the Black Hills is because that was extremely sacred. It's considered the heartbeat of the planet. From space, the shape of the Black Hills is in a human heart. It's actually a heart. The rivers are in the human heart. It's the heartbeat of the earth. And so it had gold. And so all the gold miners, and then they put the president's faces on the most sacred mountain that they had. It was just like a blast to hurt their like hearts and their culture and destroy them. And the whole dam system in the whole United States took out their lands. And so these people were forced up higher where they couldn't grow their gardens. They took out 80% of their wildlife, 90% of their timber. They were completely put underwater. All their cabins and all their homes and all their gardens were put underwater, and they were forced up on the highlands that they couldn't survive on. And they had to be in their separate little shacks all over, which they still are in. And so they were supposed to put this pipeline across Bismarck, which is north of Standing Rock, which is a very white, very racial community, and they didn't want it, so they tried to sneak it in north of the Standing Rock Reservation, all along the Lakota's land. And they thought, oh, it's just a little tiny reservation, you know, they won't have any way to like fight this or anything. They're poor. And one of the women, LaDonna, she put this out on Facebook that please help us, please stand up.
LaDonna Duke.
Yeah. Oh, LaDonna. Oh,
LaDonna Duke.
I'm just like going blank. No, it's not Duke.
It's not
What
Duke.
was her name? Brave Bull, LaDonna Brave Bull. Oh gosh. And so she put this out and people just started coming. And I think this is where I want to stress the importance of, I was busy. I'm not a protester. I don't even, well, my parents were a little bit, but I have never done anything like that. I'm not into like being violent or anything, but they were prayerful. And I went down because I had a kayak and I could like just stand up for them. And I always, my whole life, I was always like, oh, I love the Indians and that are here now, like on the reservations, and I wish I could help them in some way. And now I have the opportunity to do it. Now I know about it. Now I'm aware of it. So I have to do this. So I wanted to do it for that reason. But then when I got there, it was the most incredible thing I've ever experienced. It wasn't protesting. It wasn't like people being mean or violent or anything. It was like all these elders around campfires. They had a central fire that they kept going for this whole, like the whole year that this was happening. And they had stories around the fire, and they had children playing and having class in the teepees and talking about the buffalo. The people were together again. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. They'd been so isolated from one another, and all of a sudden they were together. They were cooking in giant cauldrons over these fires, and they had the most incredible food, and people were coming and bringing food. And when I first went, it was starting to grow from hundreds to thousands, and that was in probably August, I believe, September. Then when I started going, it started in April, and I got to be there at very strategic times where I was just taking pictures and I was just experiencing the families and the love and the beauty and the horses walking around in the teepees. And we had our tent. We were living in the tent, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way we're supposed to live. Very simply, but it was great. It was amazing. And it was the most powerful thing I've ever experienced. And I think the reason it grew so much is because it was so peaceful. It was so beautiful, and it was important. The water is everything. Water is life was the whole thing. I mean, we all have to have water. If we keep polluting the water, we're going to get sicker, and we're going to die. I mean, we're going to destroy ourselves. We have to start protecting things. We have to start protecting people. And so the important thing, one of the most important things I want to get across is that being a protester, or what they call protectors, let's talk about what it really is. What are we doing with Black Lives Matter? What are we doing with everything that's happening? What do we want to do? We want to protect people. We want to protect the land. We want to protect the water. So they were water protectors, and they were standing to say, no, this isn't right. You can't do this. You shouldn't. There's people all down the Missouri River that drink this water. You destroy the water and the biggest aquifer in the United States, you're going to really make everybody sick. But there's a lot of money that backs this up in the media. And I to be honest with you, I became extremely aware of the media, the general media, the mass media, and how much it is funded by oil companies and pharmaceutical companies, and that they really do have a say on what goes out there. Because most of the things that came out from Standing Rock was that it was getting violent. Unfortunately, it wasn't the Indians that were being violent. I was there. I witnessed it. I photographed it. I was very present with that. Now, I didn't want to be at any violent protests or anything like that. I'm just like, I'm a wimp when it comes to that. I would be in the background, but most of it, every time I went, was never any confrontation. We were able to go right to the pipeline, and until they started bringing, they had a court battle where they told where the sacred sites were. that they did not want the pipeline to go through. So they had put it out on a map, and it was a court battle that they were doing. And what happened was the pipeline company immediately started bringing their bulldozers in and taking out the sacred sites. I don't even know how this is possible to happen, but it happened, and they were destroying it so fast that there was nothing they could do about it. And the Native Americans were going and saying, what are you doing? Like, now they know where they are, and now they're destroying them, and nobody's protecting them. The police were protecting the bulldozers, and the people were trying to, stop them. And they brought out dogs that were like biting the Native Americans. It was horrendous. And this is all on video. This is all shown, but the media wasn't showing it. Like the news wasn't showing that what was happening. So my job became one of the main photographers, and telling the story from the message of love that these are families, these are children, and this is their water. And why is this even happening now? Like, I thought people were protected from these things. They're not. There's a lot going on in the world that we don't even know about because nobody's telling us about it. And so my job was to get it out there and start telling people what is happening up here. I was never in the front lines, but it became where you have these instigators. They come in. A man came in with a gun. There were no guns, no drugs, no alcohol, nothing allowed in this camp. You had to come through a checkpoint to even get in the camp. And a guy came through with this gun. Well, he was hired by the pipeline company. They found his ID and everything in the truck, and they took him down, and they chased him down to the river, and they got the gun from him. He didn't get arrested at all. The people that took him down got arrested. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make any sense. So let me tell you, the lot that's happening in the news right now, and the things that they're saying about the violence, there's instigators. They're being paid to do that. The general public is not doing this to be violent at all. This is never the intention for it. Never was for Standing Rock. And people became aware of that. And it was very scary for the government that it was becoming so big. They ended up I was there when there were 600 clergy. 125 were invited, but 600 clergy from all over the world, all different kinds of churches came, and they marched to the front line where the instigators, the pipeline companies, had burned some trucks and made it look like the Indians had done this, and blocked off the main road to town. So people had to go an hour to get supplies. So they cut everybody off there and blamed it on the Native Americans, but that's because they were trying to cut out their lifeline. And these clergy came. Everyone knew. They knew that what was happening was peaceful and that there was something else going on here. And so the clergy came, walked all the way to the main, where all these police, National Guard, they had big tanks that had these sound things that like burst your eardrums, and they had pepper spray, and they had these grenades that would supposed to be just like not like bombs, but they literally blew a girl's arm off. Like, I mean, it was unbelievable. Like, I didn't even know this kind of stuff could happen. But this clergy went, and they prayed, they sang songs, they made this huge circle, and then the vets came, the military came, the retired vets came, until it grew to be 25,000 people when all the vets started coming. And they actually apologized to the Indians for the things that have happened in the past. The clergy brought the Declaration of, oh gosh, what is it called? Where the lands, they had made this law that the lands they could take from all indigenous people. The Catholic Church created this doctrine of discovery. It's called the Doctrine of Discovery. I was standing there while thousands of people around me recording them, giving it to the chiefs and burning it, saying, we are sorry. The reason this pipeline is coming through is because of eminent domain, and saying that we have the rights to do whatever we want to your land. And so it was just so much like apology and beauty and like healing that was happening. It was the most incredible thing I've ever experienced. And the news was not covering anything. They were covering the fact that there were water cannons and freezing weather that was being sprayed on these Native Americans that were literally standing there, just standing there. It was the most unbelievable thing I've ever experienced. I was actually there when the Native Americans were standing in this line in the water at the it was the bottom of this hill that was, it's in the shape of a turtle, and it's Turtle Island, and it's on the Corps of Engineers land. It's not on the private land at all where the pipeline was going through. And the police and the military decided to take their big tanks and put them on the burial grounds on top of Turtle Island. And so the Native Americans were like, this is not cool. And we're going to stand in the water, and we're going to stand, and we're going to say, please leave. Well, while they stood there in the water, and I was there at the time, and I'd never been like on a front line of anything like this, but I was up at the media tent, and these women were coming up screaming. Like they said, everybody's got to get down there. You've got to get down there. They're shooting people. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I guess I better go record this, but I'm going to be in the background. I'm going to be really careful about where I am. It was unbelievable. They were spraying the people with this pepper spray within like a foot of their faces. And all they were doing was standing in the water saying, please don't be on our burial grounds. And they were smothering them with pepper spray. And then the people would come over, and they'd come back over, and people were pouring things on to get rid of all the stuff that was on their faces. And I photographed this one woman who had a Winnie the Pooh blanket wrapped around her. And she had all this stuff all over her face, and she was looking at me. And back then we could hardly even get media out. Like, I couldn't get it out on Facebook and stuff because they had these planes that were flying around that were actually shutting down people's cell phones. But I was able to get one photo out. I was able to get this one photo out of her face, and it went viral. And it was like 15,000 people in Huffington Post, and it just blew up because it was the only thing that was able to get out. Like, most of the time, the truth was not able to even leave the place. And it was so eye-opening to me. So I just want people to know that when you see these protests and things, the importance of standing up with people that you believe in and not being afraid to be there in some way, somewhere. Because the more people that are there, the more power that we have in making change. It doesn't have to be violent. If there's people on the front and the police are doing some things, it's not necessarily going to it's not going to happen to you more than likely. You can be in the back. There's plenty of room for thousands of people to be in the back, just standing up and saying, this has got to stop. This is ridiculous. Because the media isn't doing it, and the government isn't doing it. So people need to do it. They need to like stand up. They need to be heard, and they need to be seen. Just be there. Just be there. And that's what I did. I didn't know. I wasn't a big activist. I'm a mom. I'm a photographer. I like love and peace. I'm not going to do anything, but thank God I went there. It was the most incredible experience of my life, and the most eye-opening experience of my life that I would never have known had I not been there. If you're not there, you don't know what's really, really happening. And it is amazing how things are not being told as they are happening. So that was my little.
Oh my gosh. What was the question?
Oh God. So don't even get me started.
So here's a question that I'm going to give you 3 minutes to answer, and then I think we'll take a quick break. What's happening in Standing Rock now? I know at one time you had talked to me about they were creating a healing community and a new hospital and all this kind of amazing activities. Do you know if you could tell us what's happening now?
They raised millions of dollars during this, and they used it for the last 4 years. This was 4 years ago. 4 years for legal defense, because most of the thing is that the pipelines have a lot of money, and they believe they can hold out long enough that people just give up. And they didn't give up. And so they kept fighting it every year for the last 4 years. And they finally won. They finally were, it was actually legally said that this was illegal, that this pipeline should never have gone in. There was no environmental impact study done that was supposed to be done. And when Obama was in, this is something that happened when I was there. He announced that an environmental impact study had to be done, and the pipeline had to stop before it got to the river. Well, they didn't stop. They didn't listen to it. But because he said that, everyone celebrated. And everyone was there, and I was there during the celebration. It was like, oh my God, the president is finally supporting this. He actually didn't even know about it until somebody in Europe told him. Some students in Europe had said, what are you doing about Standing Rock? Europeans knew much more about it. The whole world knew much more about it than the United States, because the United States media is run by oil companies. So it was very quiet here, but everybody else knew about it, and they asked him, and he didn't even know about it. He didn't even know about it. And these students were saying, what are you going to do about Standing Rock? And he came back and he learned about it, and he said, no, we're not going to let this pipeline through. And then immediately when Trump got in, one of the first things he signed was let it go through. And that's why it went through. But actually, they never even stopped when they told them to stop. They have so much power. It's unbelievable. And so they put it through. It's been going through. It's been breaking. They put it through so fast. It was sloppy, and it's leaking all over the place, and it's horrendous. But they finally admitted in court that it needed an impact study, and that this was wrong. Now, whether they've stopped it, whether it's actually been shut off, I don't know. All I know is that they're supposed to do a study, but are they shutting it down? I haven't heard. It's so corrupt. It is unbelievable. It doesn't even make any sense. None of it makes any sense. But they have won that, and that's what their main thing is. Really, their legal battles. It costs so much to continue to prove that this was wrong, and they need to stop, and they're still having to battle it. So all the money is really going to that. They've created small little, some solar electricity communities, very small. It's not really that much that has actually happened there that has changed. What has happened is many people are dying. They had the spraying going on during this, and they had these planes that were spraying something. They were not sure what it was, but we're talking a war zone. We're talking to protect money zone, and they would do anything, and they could get away with it. These people are dying now. These people are sick. I can't tell you how many people that I knew up there that have died. So to me, it's really great, fine and dandy that you finally figured out this is a wrong thing to do and that this should never have happened. But why don't you compensate all the thousands of people that got so sick because they were there and they were trying to protect it? Nothing. Nothing has been done for the people. There's nothing. They're just trying to survive still. That's all. They're just trying to survive. It's very difficult. They need so much support. All the reservations need so much support because they're on land that has uranium. They're on land that has coal, the things that the government wants. And you would think that this would be protected. You would think that our United States government would not let these things happen, but it's happening. So it's important for people to be aware of it and to stand up in some way to help when you're called, when something comes into your life and you see, oh, I could go there, and I could just be there and say, I support you. That is so important. It's unbelievable. And a lot of times it's the only way we can make change. All the civil rights, when all these years that have happened and all the things that have happened to make change, what did it take? It took people standing up together and saying no. And that has got to happen. People have to be courageous enough to just go out of their box and just say, yeah, there's something wrong with this, and I need to go somewhere to say no. And that's like so powerful. And prayer, because that's what they would do. The Native Americans knew this was going to happen, and they were constantly in prayer, and they constantly are still in prayer, which is very powerful. And it's the only reason they still exist, is because of their prayerful ceremonies. And even with the camps that we do based on grandfathers, the Apache elder, his whole thing was, there was these words that we would always say. And it is, what does mean? What does mean? What is this teaching me about myself? Everything that happens to you is teaching you something about yourself. Everything that happens to you is teaching you something about yourself. You've seen like Nature Speak, Animals Speak, these books that they when an animal comes, a cardinal comes to your window, there's a meaning behind it. You can like Google it, like, what is the meaning? What is the metaphysical meaning of this animal? What is the meaning of this bird? We have vision walks that we go out, and they ask a question, and you need an answer, and you ask the trees, and it's amazing, because all these answers are inside of us. We just don't know how to tap into them. We don't know how to get to them. And when you go out and you ask these things of nature, it's very powerful, and you get answers, and the answers come to you, and you don't really even know why, but it's because nature is extremely connected to us, and extremely alive, and extremely so much more than just a tree. There's a spirit to everything. And that's what the Native Americans knew. They knew the spirit of everything. That's why they try to protect things, because they know it has a spirit. It is a reason it's here. The gold is under the ground for a reason. The trees are here for a reason. We don't just bulldoze them down. We don't destroy them. There's a reason they're here. We work with them. We work around them. We do what we can to make small footprints, because we're going to kill ourselves if we don't. And obviously, with global warming and everything else that we're doing to the earth, it's going to create problems. People are in their own little pockets, their own little worlds, and it seems really nice and everything. But when you can't be in these places, and you can't be at these protests, which honestly, it is like very powerful and very beautiful to be a part of these things. But if you can't, prayer, this is what grandfather said. He said, we can stand up with signs, and we can be protesters, and that is an important thing. But what is going to shift the world, and what is going to change the world, and the only way that we can do this, is by walking in the duality and praying and connecting with spirits, because spirits can go to other people's spirit guides, other people's spirits. Your spirit can go to another spirit and say, okay, we need to work with this dude who's doing these awful things, and we need to shine light on him. We need to pray for love for him. We need to give him blessings. I'm at the dead end of a road, and the other night a guy came barreling down the road at 4:00 in the morning. This is like the night before last. I'm very much of a protector of my land, and I jump in my car and I block him in. And another gal that lives here, she came down with her cell phone. She was taking pictures of his license plate. It was just like, we protect this land. We get this guy out of here. We record who he is, and we call the police. And this is what we have to do to bring awareness to this person. But as soon as I come inside, I pray for him, because that's what we have to do. We have to, I shone white light around him. I prayed that he heal from it looked like he was on drugs. We have to pray. We have to pray for people. We have to pray together. We have to get as many people to pray as possible. We have to pray seriously. We have to visualize what we want, instead of focusing on the fear, reading everything with whatever it is going on in the world. and the horrible things that are happening in the world. When we don't feel like we can do anything about those things, and just looking at them and 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 being part of the fear, and being part of just the sharing of the fear, you're growing the fear. You have to stop that. You've got to focus on the love, focus on the light. That's what I was doing with Standing Rock. I was letting people know there is love here. There is light here. There is beauty in this. There is beauty in that pipeline, because what did that pipeline do? It brought the people together again. And they lived like they were supposed to be living. They were happy again. They were laughing again. They were taking care of each other. This is the way it used to be. And that pipeline was a gift to those people. And even though you can look at it in a horrible way, and yes, it's horrible and it still needs to change, but there's beauty in everything. There's beauty in all these protests. Change is beautiful, but you've got to focus on that. You got to switch it up. What can you do yourself to bring beauty to the world? What can you do? You can pray. You can like do your own thing, create your own art, bring beauty in the world, do what you love. That is what we have to focus on. But the powers that be, that want the money and the greed, are going to want you to be fearful. They want you to be afraid, because what does it do? It gives them control. If you keep doing your thing and you keep doing what you love, I'm going to keep teaching the children. I'm, very careful. We wash their hands and all these things. And it's okay now because we can have small groups and all these things. But it's like, I can't tell you how many parents thank me. Thank you so much for not being so fearful that you won't let the children play. And they've already put things out, World Health Organization, that the children aren't the ones that they're spreading it. They can even get it for the most part. And so the children are fine. And they're even saying now that it's not even spreadable by, asymptomatic, if you don't have symptoms, you can spread it. Extremely rare. World Health Organization has finally admitted it. And so it's just just try your best not to tap into the fear. Protect the people that are vulnerable. Protect those people. But you've got to carry on with life, and you've got to let the children play. And people are committing suicide right and left because of this. This is not saving people. Unfortunately, it's hurting people in so many ways. So it's important for you to do what you can to heal for yourself, to keep doing what you love, to keep praying, to keep focusing on the good things that are happening. Let that grow. Let not the fear overcome everything. That is so important to me. So important.
Yeah. So I think this is a perfect time for us to take a small break. And when we come back, typically in our climate conversations, we will go through some sort of guided meditation or visualization. And Kelly has offered to do that for us today, from whatever perspective she would like to take. She's touched on such deep issues, and it's such a complicated issue, and it's so broad, and it's been going on for so many centuries. And I think the analysis, the understanding, the ramifications pertain to everything happening throughout our society. So whether it's the virus, the Black Lives Matter movement, the environmental movement, it's just all the same. It's all the same. And I think for us to be able to take a moment, take a break, and come back and embody it in what I'll call meditation, what some of you may call prayer, I think it's the right way to do. It's the way to find that the connection, the hope, the stillness, and that sense of purpose and who am I and what am I to offer. And so Kelly, thank you. And if anyone would like to post things in the chat box during the break. So it is 11:18. Why don't we come back? 11:19. come back about 11:25 or something like that. Probably shouldn't take too long to hit the restroom and refill a beverage. And then we'll do about a 15-minute meditation, and then we can open it up to Q&A. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. And let's see, we just had one comment, a couple comments in the chat, a couple people that had to go. Let's see, this has been a beautiful, thank you, Kelly, so inspired, life-changing. Happy eclipse and solstice, everyone. God bless the white buffalo woman. That was from Caitlin. And then Carol Hunt had to go. Thank you, it was great. So let's do, if you're comfortable, Kelly, I'll just let you take it however you want with whatever.
Do you want me to do a little meditation thing?
Yeah,
Or
that'd be great.
yeah, is everybody on now?
Everybody's on, I think.
Everybody
Let me cancel this.
Okay.
Hold on, let me see. I think Janice might be moving around, or that's her fan, and Brenda might not be back yet. And Carolyn's upside down, so that's weird. Yeah, I think you could go ahead and go.
Okay. So I was just going to walk through something that I do with people on my forced therapy walks. So usually what I try to do, like, especially with all this COVID and everything, everybody is, trying to do things online. And one of the neat things that I've seen the forced therapy people do is that everybody will be in their own space with some kind of nature around them. I don't know if you can hear the birds, but my doors are open and everything, and the birds are singing out there. But if you could like be somewhere that's like by a window, or that you can see some nature around you, this is what I'm going to walk you through for your senses. So, I mean, if the window can be open and you can hear outside, anything you can do to connect yourself a little bit more with nature. What I'm going to do is what it's called the pleasures of presence. And what it is one of the steps that we do in forced therapy to help people sink into nature. And that is to come in connection with their senses. And so we drop people in with this. So I'm going to just do it as if you were somehow around nature a little bit. And it could be just tapping into the sounds and the feeling and everything that you're experiencing right now, wherever you're at and whatever chair you're sitting in. But if you want to get comfortable, even lay down, or start to just where you can hear some nature sounds, that'd be awesome. So that's what I suggest. But if you're not, I'm just going to walk you through this as if you are. So what we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes. Everyone close your eyes and take some really deep breaths. So you're going to take a few deep breaths and notice how your body feels. Notice how it feels to be supported by the earth below your feet, where you're sitting, that the earth is supporting you right now. The earth is giving you a place to sit. It's giving you a place to walk. It's one of the gifts of the earth, is that it is giving us a home. So feel that. So feel how you're supported by the earth. And then feel the sky around you as you close your eyes. Sense the sky and how it's holding you in a way. It's surrounding you and holding you. And it's holding all the living things, holding space for all of it. And then feel how your thoughts arise and fall away, and welcome all of it. When you start to think of something, just let it go and focus on the earth below you. Focus on the sky above you. And keep breathing deep breaths. Breathe in and breathe out. And then I want to turn your attention toward a sense of touch. Hold your hands with your palms turned forward and letting your hands be sensors. Notice the sensations on your skin, the variety of sensations on your bare skin and where you're clothed. What kind of textures are in the experience of touch? Perhaps among these sensations, we can find some simple pleasure and invite that pleasure in. Feel the breeze on your skin. Now turn your attention to hearing. What sounds are around you? Notice the variety of sounds, the distances, the sounds that are close to you, and the sounds that are far away. Notice the patterns. I wonder if there are any rhythms in the sounds around us. And if they interact with each other. And how the individual sounds may combine like chords or a symphony. And notice within the experience of sound that which is giving you pleasure. Give hospitality to what feels right to you. Now exaggerate the sound of your own breathing, just enough so you can hear it. So it blends in with the sounds around you. What is it like to be a part of the symphony of this place? Now breathing in through your mouth, what is this space around you offering you? If you were in a forest, what is the air that's surrounding you offering you? When you breathe in deeply, explore the air. How does it taste? What is its texture? I wonder what the qualities of the air are here in this place. When you breathe out, I wonder if you had trees near you, if they would be receiving your breath. And know that you're in harmony and synchronicity with these trees. Because when you breathe in, they breathe out. When you breathe out, they breathe in. And you're experiencing the same air, the same breath. I wonder if there's something that we could offer to the nature that is around you, the forest, something that we can offer to it, to carry to it in our breath, with our breath. What can we carry to it? What kind of message can we give it, the trees? Now breathing in through your nose, what sense are you experiencing? If you were in the forest, what would you be smelling? How would it be different? And when you move your head from side to side, like a hound sniffing the air, if you were outside, it would smell different on the ground, it would smell different on the flower, it would smell different on the tree. Everything has a different scent. Focus on those scents of everything. Now, keeping your eyes closed, hold your hands out to your sides, near your hips, and turn the palms forward. And wonder if your entire body is its own kind of sense. What can you feel with your body? Feel the direction you're facing. Does that direction have a personality? Can you feel it nearby? Can you feel far away? What can you sense that seems to be an emanation from the direction you're facing? And is there something your body sends out in return, perhaps forming a sense of connection or experience of recognition? And with your eyes closed, if you can, turn in your space, one direction or another, and pause as you turn to become familiar with the sensation and the presence of that direction. What changes? Turn till you're facing a direction that just somehow feels right to you. The direction your body wants you to face. And in a moment, but not until I say so, you're going to open your eyes. And when you do, I invite you to see what appears as if you're seeing it for the first time. So now, open your eyes. So that's what I would do, like with people out in the forest a little bit, just to start sinking them in and helping them become aware of the surroundings around them. Pretty simple. I do this with the children too, and they start to like see things like you would never even notice before. They would never even notice these things or see these things. That's why we do the sit spot every day, because they do the same place every day and they see something new. One of them had mushrooms grow the night before between the sit spots. And when we had the rain yesterday, we had some wood air mushrooms growing a log overnight. And it's so magical to be able to just start noticing things. And it takes you out of the drama of the world, you know. And it is good. It's powerful, because what you're doing is you're connecting with spirit. You're connecting with the spirit of everything. And that spirit is what's powerful to make change. It's the most important thing that you can do. It's like the butterfly effect. When you start to feel peace, the world is going to start to feel peace. Imagine if everyone was doing that, how powerful that would be. That's the power of change right there. It's what the Native Americans knew. They understood the power of nature and how it can help them, and this power of spirit. It was a constant thing. They didn't live life going to church on Sunday. They lived with spirit every moment, every second. They had to in order to survive. You know, they lived out in nature. They had to be in harmony with it in order to survive. And they did it for thousands and thousands of years. That's the way it's always been. It hasn't been different like this, except for recently, very recently. And, you know, the people that are born now think it's always been like this. It's not. It's not always been like this. And we can always go back to simplicity and just in the moment by being aware and paying attention to your surroundings, in your place, where you're at, and finding gratitude in it. seems like a simple thing, but it's extremely powerful. And it's what's keeping the Native Americans going now, the ones that are still connected. One of the things that we do with our school is we go to reservations and we teach the children about the plants again because they don't know anymore. They've been so isolated from their traditions, their songs in so many ways. It was illegal for them to do their songs and prayers until like 1973. It's crazy. They're just starting to get back, starting to do their sun dances again, and they're things that help them connect to nature and honor it, and connect with spirit, God, and walk in Tanka and Tinkashala. You know, it's just like they know it's the most important thing, and the ones that still have it or still practice it, but many don't. Just a simple plant like plantain that helps the kids heal their own stings. It's empowering for these children to learn that they can heal themselves with a plant, a sting or a cut, to chew up a leaf and be able to put it on there. These Native American children don't even know anything about this. So we go and we play games with them, and we teach them about the plants, and we empower them and help them remember their roots. It's all children, Native American children, suburban white children, inner city children. Everyone needs these skills. We need to reconnect to help them, to help ourselves, and to help the earth. The earth is a living being. It knows what's happening. It's very powerful. She's been very patient with us. And she does what she can and what she needs to do in order to clean it up. In order to, she's going to be around forever. It's whether we can handle what we're doing or not. And so as an individual, you just have to do your own thing. Like one of the things that I'm doing is I'm making a card deck, Oracle card deck. I don't know if you know Stephanie Barton, but she and I were putting together a card deck on wild edible plants and the meaning and why it's good, and teaching people about that, but also helping them connect with it in a different way, so that they understand that there's more to it than just the name of it. There's so much more to it. There's the spirit of it. There's the medicine of it. Teaching how to forage with just taking only a third. You don't take all of the plant. You take, if there's 3 violet flowers, you leave 2 and you have 1, so that the animals have some and that the seeds are planted. And the reason that's why I can go out and have wild edibles is because they knew this, and they made sure not to over forage, and how to go to different areas, and that's why they moved around. But it's interesting because people think, well, there's so many more people now, we can't do this anymore. Well, there were millions of them died. Millions of them got sick and died because of the diseases that were brought here. That was one of the main things that killed them. But there were millions of them, and they were doing just fine in their teepees. And they were happy. And isn't it interesting how we can maybe change the way we live in our boxes? Or how can we share with people? Or how can we reduce our footprint and not use so much? Turn down our air conditioning. Turn down our heat. How can we do this to just do our little simple things to reduce our footprint, and then to stand up with people that don't have as much? How can we help them? How can we support them? How can we love them? That's what it's all about. And even with the crazy things that are happening in the world, we just have to do what we can in our own little part, in our own little space, in our own little way. That's all we can do. But it's important to do something. It's important to pray. It's important to go out there. And it's beautiful too. It's really beautiful to go out when there's a cause of something that is about helping people to have less violence in their lives, helping people to have less discrimination in their lives, helping people to have opportunity in their lives that many of us have that people don't have, and making it aware to people that this is happening, that there's a problem here. There's not equality. There's a lot of problems here, and we need to not ignore it. We need to stand with them. We need to help them be heard, and we need to tell people about it. We need to talk about it, not be afraid to talk about the truth. You know, it may not be, you know, you may not be what you think is a rebel, but you don't have to be nasty to be a rebel.
Oh my gosh, Kelly, this has just been so amazing. And, you know, I want to point out on that meditation that you led us through, it was like 10 minutes, like just that focusing in, setting your intention, noticing through each of your senses. You know, your senses are there to inform you of how safe you are or how you're not safe. And so when you really connect to nature, especially through your senses, there just is this sense of peace and connection. And all of that together leads to clarity of thinking, right? Reduces your blood pressure, increases your cognitive ability and your creativity. Like all of these, there's all these studies showing these things to be true. And it's on so many levels. And just your statement about how we can live in our boxes, like, oh my gosh, that is just such an image of how we can reconnect, even living in our boxes. And, you know, a big part of my mission as an environmental activist has been teaching people how to restore native gardens, native plants, native habitat, especially in our suburban gardens. And you're the embodiment of it. And I'm just so grateful you joined us today. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to cancel the spotlight on you and invite anyone to ask a question. So there's one question that we have so far in the chat box is from Margot. She'd like to know when that card deck is going to be available.
Well, hopefully within the month. You know, I'm doing a lot of research right now on it, and making sure I have, you know, it's really fun for me. It's like I love doing it because it gives me even more to teach people when I go out in the woods and show them things, and I realize, wow, this is like, wow, I didn't know about this plant. So I'm doing a lot of research to really have special things about each plant, and I have all the photographs. So Stephanie reached out to me because she knew about my photography. And so, you know, I had to take more pictures because I didn't think about, you know, I record them to, you know, so I know what it looks like, but I like making things beautiful. So we're recording them really beautifully. And so I would say within the next month, I'll have it ready.
Great. Cool. So raise your hand, literally, if I can see your face. If you'd like to ask a question or make a comment so that we just have one person speaking at a time. Anybody? At all?
I would like to kind of qualify what I said earlier about landscaping. For me, it's because I do it natural, and I teach other people to do the same thing. I don't use any kinds of artificial stuff at all. And I have as many birds as you can get in a suburban neighborhood and as many animals. But I do teach people. And I've been to most of the places that Kelly was talking about. Plus, Kelly, have you ever been to Germany?
Germany? No, I know a lot of people that have been.
Yeah.
It's all about being outside.
Yeah, have you ever been there?
No,
well, let me tell you, they are tremendous. Yeah, they are tremendous about taking care of their land. It's amazing. They have a fire, they pick up all the logs and all the stuff that was left behind the fire. Haiti, of course, Haiti is very natural. They drink dirty water. They don't do antibiotics. You can learn so much. So what I've done now is I teach little kids, first, second, and third, and even sometimes fourth and fifth. And I teach adults about all these things, even though I can't do it like I used to. But, and I will tell you, you are 100,000% right about pharmacies. I've been in the medical field for 58 years. I know what they do. But you did it was great. I love this, what you just did.
Thanks, Judy. Who else? Other comments?
And I could teach you, like, I have a song that was taught to me by some Lakotas and Potawatomi people. I was on a ride to Wounded Knee that I did to honor the people that remain, that their ancestors, experienced the Wounded Knee massacre. And so we take a horse ride in the same path that they took before they were massacred and do prayers along the way. And they taught me a song that was about, it was about Great Spirit. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for our healing. And it was a song that was taught to me to go on the ride. And I can sing it to you if you want to, if we have time, just as short at the end.
Let's do it. Do
Okay.
it.
All right. So the way you do the song, you sing it 4 times in the 4 directions, so that everything around you is, everything's done in a circle. It's really important. It's the way life is meant to be, right? So, so you would face the east first, and sing it again to the south and the west and the north. And the first part of it, Tonka Shela, is a Great Spirit God. And then Pala Mayaye is a thank you. And then the rest of it talks about thank you for our healing. Thank you for our healing. So it goes like this. Tonka Shela, Pila Mayaye, Pila Mayaye, Pila Mayaye Loe. We chose anyone, Mayang Kucha, Pila Mayaye Loe. So that would be one direction. Then I'm supposed to sing it 3 more times.
Go ahead.
I'll sing it 3 more times and you'll get the hang of it.
Okay.
Tunka Shela, Pila Mayaye, Pila Mayaye, Pila Mayaye Loe. We chose anyone, Mayang Kucha, Pila Mayaye Loe. Tunka Shela, Pila Mayaye, Pila Mayaye, Pila Mayaye Loe. We chose anyone, Mayang Kucha, Pila Mayaye Loe. Tunka Shela, Pila Mayaye, Pila Mayaye, Pila Mayaye Loe. We chose anyone, Mayang Kucha, Pila Mayaye Loe.
Oh,
Kelly,
thank you so much. Thank you for your heart, for your activism, for your deep understanding and your willingness to share it with children and families. And yeah, I can't express that deeply enough.
On our website, if you guys want to see events and schedule a therapy walk or a wild edible walk, you go to blueriverforestexperience.org, and it'll tell you where to schedule, to the events and the things that we have going on, donating, whatever the projects that we have going on with our gardens, and just all the things that we're doing to share with people.
That's so great. So we have one question from Margot. What is the order of the directions on the song?
So you start with the east, and then you go to the south, and then you go to the west and the north. So you want to, it's a circle. You want to go into the circle. It's a medicine wheel. It's like the medicine wheel. The east is the direction of new beginnings, the direction of fire. So each represents a different element. So east is fire, east is the eagle, the hawk, clarity, clear vision. It is about rebirth, reawakening, renewal. So it's the beginning. So it's a symbol of life. So you start at the beginning, you start in birth, and then you move to the south, which is like the toddler. It is where we learn creativity. We have joyfulness and playfulness. It's about water. Water has to do with, emotions. So right emotion with right action is the south. It's the wolf and the mouse. And all over the world, these directions are in indigenous cultures. Sometimes they might switch like water and earth, but the way I learned it is water is in the south. And they also have different colors in the different directions. So you'll see red, black, white, and yellow. So the south is also people connect it with Jesus and Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and creativity, Archangel Gabriel. It has to do with bringing creativity in our life, laughter, joyfulness, playfulness. That's the toddler. That's the south. Then you go to the west, which is like the teenager. It's like transition time. It's where we're going through changes in our lives, and the direction that gives us guidance with that, with transition and gentle and easy transition. It's about the earth. It's about the earth in the transitions that are happening in the earth right now. So that in the bear, that's in the west direction. It's the teenager. Then you go to the north. The north is the wisdom. The north is abundance. The north is white buffalo, calf pipe woman, and the hummingbird, and about the ancestors and connecting with wisdom and bringing to ourselves, going through birth and playfulness and learning and transition into wisdom. So the goal is to complete the circle into wisdom so that we can bring wisdom to the world and that we can hear our ancestors and walk with our ancestors who are wise and who give us this wisdom if we connect with them. So we connect with the north, we connect with the air. This is wind, air. It's what moves through all things, what permeates everything, what gives us breath, what gives us life is in the north, and it is the air. And so that's the complete circle. And then you go above is Wankantunkan, which is God, is Great Spirit. The spirit that moves through all things is up. Above, we ask for, direction to come down through us, the light, to be bridges on this earth. That's what we are. We are bridges between heaven and earth. And how we take care of the earth, we have to connect with heaven in order to do that. So the earth is the below. Earth is below, and we can connect deep within the earth and the power of the earth and the energy of the earth. The earth is alive. The earth is our mother. It brings us life, And so we bring the earth up, and then within is the power that we have to move mountains, the power that we have to bring love and peace and beauty into this world. That's our part of the entire circle, is what's inside us and our ability to have all these things create something beautiful.
Wow. Whew. What a way to end. I am deeply grateful. I just, this has been fantastic. What I would like to do is, I'm going to stop the recording in just a moment, and I'm going to leave the Zoom call open. So if anyone would like to just share something on the chat, and you can, and then I can send that chat to Kelly after. If you have questions of me, we can answer that, after the recording. And then I will be saving the recording, putting it up on our YouTube page, and I will send an email out to everyone who registered for today's program, so that you can get that. It'll probably be tomorrow before that gets uploaded. Kelly?
And you can go to our Facebook page too, Blue River Forest Experience, and like our page and comment and learn about the events on our page as well, and become friends with me if you want Kelly Daniels to connect with me and message me. You can do that too.
I love it. But do go on the website also and get on their email list just so you can keep up with what amazing programming that they're doing there. And again, to make a donation, which is not available on their website yet, but to help support their nonprofit would be fantastic. So that's at blueriverforestexperience@gmail.com, and you can do that through PayPal. So thank you so much. Thank you to everybody. Delighted to see you. We're still working on our July climate conversations. Not sure what's happening with that, but got some great things in the works. Just can't talk about anything yet. We do have our Sunday morning meditation every Sunday from 9 to 10 on Zoom. It's a free event, but as usual, donations are gratefully accepted. And we have a couple other events coming up, so check out our calendar. And happy to see everybody. Can't wait until the day we can actually be in person and and move on to the next phase. So that's it.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.